Wilson came home from Flanders making a strange noise, and that started my week-long pulley dilemma. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Wilson the VW Bus Podcast. You are here again with your host Joe and Wilson, my 67 Splitty. Before we begin today, I want to dedicate this episode to my new grandson, Owen, born just a few hours ago today, October 31st, 2025. Yes, on Halloween. I know that Mom and Dad were hoping that he wouldn't come today so that he could have his own special birthday, but Halloween has always held a special place within our family holidays, and he can share the birthday with Derpy too. Welcome to the family, Owen. You're going to love us, and we already love you. So, Wilson and I returned home from the all-air-cooled gathering VW camping weekend in Flanders, New Jersey, back in mid-September, with a strange new sound. My wife met us in the driveway as we pulled back in from the return trip, and immediately she said to me, "Your bus sounds strange." Of course, I feared the worst after last year's fiasco with my oil line, so I swiftly ran back and popped up the engine cover, and my belt was visually loose. All right, no big deal, I thought. I'd just tighten it up, right? Wrong. No matter how I tried, I could not keep the alternator pulley nut tight. I thought that maybe it was the shims, but after some diagnosis, I finally figured out that it was the old used 6-volt pulley that was the issue. The 6-volt pulley has these two tangs and corresponding slots that lock the pulley halves together. Now, those slots were now mangled and beaten oblong by the tabs, which were now nearly also destroyed. One of them was practically ripped off. Well, how was this even possible? I mean, I didn't do anything to it. It didn't make any sense. So, when I had some time during the next week, I stopped over at the Pegasus VW shop to get a new pulley. And then it started to become a little clearer. The 6-volt pulley that was used when I got it, I mean, it wasn't a brand new pulley, and although the tabs and the slots were perfect when I first installed it, the shaft where the outer pulley sits on the inner pulley, well, that was worn with a very big groove. I mean, it was symmetrical, so I hadn't noticed it, and I didn't recognize that that groove was not supposed to be there. I'm kind of a novice at VW pulleys at this point when I installed it. So eventually, everything got worn down, and it ruined the shims, and then it ruined the slots on the tabs, and both the slots and the tabs as well. So I set the 6-volt pulley aside and went to work replacing it with a brand new unit that I got from Juan up at Pegasus. The new pulley seemed to do the trick, but I tried nearly a dozen different belt sizes from all the local auto parts stores, and nothing worked. I mean, I was running to a store about 40 minutes away that's open till midnight just to try to get a couple different belts in every metric size that I could figure might possibly work for this. The belt was either too low or too tight or too loose, and no matter what combination of shims and belts that I tried, I could not get it right. I mean, the closest I got was a belt that sat so far down in the pulley, that was definitely not acceptable. What I came to discover was that the gap or the valley of the newly manufactured pulley that I had gotten from Juan was too wide in comparison to the original. Maybe it's for some kind of, I don't know, a Type 3 or something, a newer model. I mean, I didn't know that there were that many different discrepancies in the width, but this was definitely not going to work. I took a micrometer and I measured it, and it was way off, way too wide. So after I confirmed my suspicion with the measurements, I ordered another new pulley from SIP1, and while waiting for it to arrive, I decided to try to repair the original 6-volt pulley, because now I had some time on my hands. I dragged out the old MIG welder and took each of the two halves and began welding on the tabs and the slots. After the metal was slathered on with the welder, I took the Dremel and machined the new metal so that the slots were nice and tight again with the tabs. Next, I ran a bead of weld around the shaft of the inner pulley and gave it the same similar Dremel treatment until both halves of the pulleys clicked together like two Legos. When I reinstalled the new shims and the belt, I had no problem getting the belt tight and having the nut stay on. So I took a Sharpie pen and added a small dot to the nut and another small dot onto the alternator shaft directly across from where my mark was to make a quick visual aid. Now I could see if the pulley or nut was loose again without having to grab a wrench. So that was my dilemma with the alternator. I still have a brand new belt and a brand new pulley that came from SIP 1. And I'm keeping those in the spare because I've been checking, and so far my repaired 6-volt pulley is still working great. At one point I did have the chrome nut out on the end, which I didn't like, and now it has the stock VW nut, which I think it looks much better. To me, I wasn't too crazy about the chrome on the end. So after this was finished, about a week later, my friend Art from Central Jersey Volkswagen, he sent me a message on social media, and he says, hey, I know we talked real quick when we were up at Flanders about my brother's house. They're going to have a show, and we'd like it if you could come. So I thought, a show at your house? Okay. I mean, I usually the shows are pretty big, so I figured this was going to be a small little thing. I was like, sure, no problem. I'll meet you. And we met out on Route 22. It's about 45 minutes away from where I live. And we met up in an old abandoned Stewart's Root Beer, which is a sort of like a fast food chain. It was just one that had been closed down. And as we were there, probably 5 minutes, a few other VWs showed up, some that were with the group and some that were just driving by. There was a guy with a newer, I would say a 90s Volkswagen pickup truck. And I'm not familiar of this sort of like a mini truck, but it was a VW. And he said, I saw you guys with all these VWs. I had to come by. So he pulled over and he got in line. He joined with us and we convoyed down the road to Art's brother's house, where I was, to say surprised would be an understatement at the scope of this show. It was a fundraiser for the local municipal police department that was in his town. It was an estate. It was not much of a tiny show at all. There were hundreds of cars there. Art's brother was very hospitable, free drinks and food. There were barns and garages full of his personal collection, which I got to tell you, I was flabbergasted at the type and the quality of vehicles that he had there. I mean, there was a garage full of 1932 Fords, some with flatheads, some that were hot rods. Each one of these cars was, museum quality. There was a garage full of old trucks, old Ford pickup trucks. There was a garage full of like muscle cars and lead sleds. And then there were garages full of exotic European cars like Ferraris and Ford GTs and GT40s. There was even a plane that his brother owned that did a little flyby when they did the national anthem at the start of the show. So an amazing event, something I definitely would like to attend again, and a beautiful area that they had this show in on the fields. I might have some pictures I might throw on Instagram if I can find them. So that was Art's brother's show. That was a lot of fun. The next day, I wanted to go to a show out in Clark, which is the town next to the town that I live in. They have, for the 15th annual show that they hold out on the grass in the field, it used to be an old golf course, and now it's just called Oak Ridge Park. And they've always had a show there. I've never been able to get there with my cars, so I was so excited. I was going to take Wilson, and we were going to have a great time. We got up early in the morning, packed up everything in the bus. I pushed it out of the garage. I hit the gas pedal to set the choke, and it stuck to the floor. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I snapped the cable, so I popped up the engine compartment and I looked, and sure enough, I snapped the throttle cable right at the carburetor. Now, this was completely my fault because way back when I put that cable in, and this is the second cable, the first cable I had was absolutely fine, but when I was doing the floors, I got a little overzealous with the plasma cutter and accidentally cut through my throttle cable. So I put a new one in, and I thought it was the stock 67 cable, and that was fine, but it turns out that the correct cable size for my 1967 bus is the 1950 to 1955 VW bus cable, which measures about 3514 millimeters. That's what Wilson needs. So when I put the longer cable in, back a few years ago when I cut the first one, I didn't attach the barrel nut to the provided end, that thicker end on the cable. I just pulled the cable all the way through and attached the barrel nut right to the cable. And I knew it was wrong, but I figured, I'll just get to it. And I forgot about it. So, needless to say, it snapped right there. I had to go and make some online orders again through my parts dealer, and I got the new, like I said, the 1950 to 55 bus cable, which measured perfectly. I adjusted the carburetor linkage a little bit. I was going to make some adjustments and maybe move. I put an extra return spring years ago, and I put it there at the carb, and I was going to maybe put that spring back at the pedal underneath. But I haven't done it yet, and I still haven't decided. But everything worked out. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that day, and so I didn't make the show. So I did miss that Clark show. So, well, there's always year 16. I still do have one spare cable, which is in the bus. It's underneath the rear seat. And although it is too long, I still have it. I should just spend the $12 for the correct cable, to be honest with you. So that was my dilemma. Broken throttle cable. Hopefully that won't happen again. Art's show. And the infamous 6-volt pulley debacle. I kind of feel bad. I have a brand new pulley sitting in the bus, but it'll stay with my spare parts for now. And I keep checking on the current pulley. And I just like my 6-volt pulley. I don't want to replace it. So that's it. That just about does it for this episode of Wilson the VW Bus. Hope you enjoyed our little chat. And I will talk to you soon. Take care. And happy Halloween.